YouTube. Bu benim Türk lokunum. Eğer farklı konuşursam çünkü yasal bir toplantı yaşıyoruz. İlacını al.
Eğer bana küfür eden varsa oralarda, bana bir yazı yazanlar olursa, onun anasının amına fok koyarım, tamam mı? You motherfucker, you can't talk to me like that, you twat face.
Hey YouTube, it is me, TurkishD.Lite. Gaslighting, what is it? I've always said that I was never in it for the money. But after hitting 1,000 subscribers, I've realised I am but a small fish in a pond full of predators. And every month, the demands go up. One day I fear I will have to submit and be forced to do awful acts for atrocious prices. It is no secret that one of my favourite dinosaurs of all time is the Dilophosaurus, or Dilo, or even the Dildo for short. The Dilo recently received a monumental balance change in that its ability fucking works, meaning that we can finally bred schizophrenia on such a scale such that the average owl player, much like Helen Keller waking up in an orgy, has no idea just who they're fucking with. And of course, there is absolutely no way that a single day after Dilo's hallucinations are working better than they ever have in the past, that something would break and make Dilo once again completely useless against any owl player who has a brain, which granted is an achievement in itself, but come on.
You will be laughing still at the end.
Hey YouTube, this is TurkishD.Lite. If something is feeling a little weird, if something is feeling a little strange, if you think that we're bouncing from topic to topic a little too fast, it isn't me, it's you.
I've recently decided that the only thing left for me to do is to absolutely sell the fuck out. Hence why this video is actually sponsored by everything. Everything under the sun. Apparently I learnt that depending on what you say in the video, it will spawn different advertisements to arrive. And so therefore, if I start mentioning things like Aldi, expensive cars, diamond rings, expensive watches, overpriced perfume, luxury hotels, affordable housing for you to become a landlord, the Federal fucking Reserve, in theory, I should get advertisements that are worth more money, meaning that I therefore earn more money. Ever since I learnt that I could earn money from YouTube, I've been battling with a deep internal philosophy of whether or not I want to be poor. And I've decided after living my life as a poor person, I no longer want to be poor. In fact, I believe that it is morally reprehensible to be poor. Hence why I'm going to do my best to no longer be poor. That is my current solution. In fact, the final solution to the question of poverty. I have no idea what the fuck to talk about in this video anymore, simply because Dilo got changed, and this basically means that every piece of information that I was going to tell you is completely fucking derailed. For example, I was going to tell you about this entire Serrado fight that me and Jay had, where a Serrado was following me and Jay around for hours, from about 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. In game time, of course. And not once did he think to leave before it turned nighttime. And then we just kind of just diloed him. And he got epically diloed. And it was really, really funny. But he could have actually left. In fact, you know, fuck it. I'm going to prove that he could have left due to swim speed. If he would have just swam across the fucking water, we wouldn't have been able to fight him. He would have been perfectly safe. Fuck it. Here's fucking clips. Just to prove it, right? Come on. So on screen now is the swim time for the Serrado leaving the field that we were at to cross the water to the safest point that that they could get to. And then afterwards there's going to be the Dilo swimming. And the Serrado gets there like 5 to 6 seconds before the fucking Dilo does. If he would have just, you know, if he would have just checked his character page every so often and just headed off towards the water and then crossed, he would have lived. Like, granted, yes, cool, maybe he was starving. But if he was starving, there was a sub Dibble and a sub Stego there the entire time that he never even tried to fight with. But he decided to fight the two Dilos right before nighttime. And just even then, just, you know, oh, but he's starving. Yeah, he spent, I'm telling you, it was about 20 fucking minutes that we spent walking around. Meaning that Serato had more than 20 minutes of food left. And he didn't die of starvation, right? So it begs the question of, what the fuck was he doing? It just doesn't make sense. Just, yes, two Dilos right before nighttime. This is a easy fight for the Serato. I honestly think, here are some of my opinions about Serato recently. I'm very, very happy that Serato's bile application got reduced. I thought that was something that was needed. I feel like I probably need to play Serato a bit right now to actually see how good it is. But I feel like Serato might not be that bad anymore. Unless, of course, you're being faced by a whole squad of Seratos, in which case you're going to have a bad time. Especially for something like a solo Dibble, or maybe even potentially a duo of Dibbles. Even though from testing in the past, it took about 3 Seratos to really take on a Dibble. So we'll have to see. But I feel like Serato players have gotten very, very comfortable with the idea of, I can just walk around and fight whatever I want, and I'll be perfectly okay. But you have to remember that you're a Serato. And Serato is basically just a glorified scavenger. It's a corpse bully. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be able to do anything outside of bully corpses. But what I'm saying is, you are designed to corpse bully. This would be like a Kano player being like, I think Kano should be fighting Stegosaurus and be able to kill a Stegosaurus. It's like, no, you are designed to be a small game hunter. Why are you trying to kill Stegos? I feel like that's quite a big wake-up call. We can even then talk about how I feel about Dilo currently, besides the new bug that it has. I said that Dilo, I don't think Dilo is that OP. Right? And I feel like we're going to have a lot of complaints about Dilo being OP when I don't think it is. Why is this? This may just be my own definition of the term overpowered. But if I was to consider something in the Isle overpowered, it would mean that the very existence of this dinosaur makes it such that there is no way to win an encounter with that dinosaur. There's no way to win. Just if that dinosaur sees you, or whatever, you die. You see. And Dilo is very, very close to that. Granted, I will admit, it is very, very close to that, but I don't think it reaches that. The simple reason is that because of the way that the Isle is designed, it's not like a game like Call of Duty, where you have to fight the enemy team. You don't have to fight the Dilo, and 2, you don't even need to encounter the Dilo. If the Dilo doesn't find you during nighttime, he won't kill you. Of course, this is the same for every single carnivore. So why don't I make the complaint or the assumption that Kano could never be broken because it's designed to hunt in the field, so if you just don't go into the field, you'll be fine. It's mainly due to the time of day. During nighttime, you can't really see much. It is, how'd you say, it is more difficult to avoid the Kano during daytime because you have to eat during the daytime, you have to drink, you have to go about getting food as a herbivore during the daytime. During the nighttime, you don't really have to as much. It's darker and everyone else is kind of hiding. So therefore that is the Dilo's time to strike. It's those hours between 9 PM and 4 AM. I'm fairly sure it's 4 AM. It's a time where the hallucinations work properly. So you only really have 7 in-game hours to really do anything. That's less than a third of the, day timer for the game. For a Dilo to really attack. People have also brought up the fact that Dilo is a ranged dinosaur. In theory, if we want to use the argument that the hallucinations are a ranged attack, which I suppose they are, so is Bleed. Bleed is a ranged attack. Like, you're saying that a raptor pounces me, or like I get bitten a bunch of times by a dinosaur and I start running and then I bleed out? Oh, bleed is a ranged attack. I mean, for you to even suggest I have a ranged attack in a game like this is preposterous. It's like, yeah, he needs to bite you, and then he sends out the hallucinations. I personally think the biggest issue with Dilo right now isn't to do with its ability to really kill you. I think it's actually just the hallucinations. What I would rather happen is that the hallucinations do what they used to do, which is you chuckle, a hallucination spawns, and the hallucination does the 3 call, waits around, and then goes in to attack you. You could even make it such that the time it takes for the Dilo to the hallucination to wait around for you is dependent on your running speed. The higher your running speed, the less time it waits for you. Basically, it's effectively made such that if you run directly at the hallucination, the second it makes that 3 call, you will make it disappear. If you move like a second later, which is a fairly long time, 1 second if you really think about it, the hallucination will bite you when it gets to you, or just already be running towards you. The reason why I think this would be good is because it wouldn't actually kill Dilo. What it would mean is that a solo Dilo would have to summon its hallucinations in sequence. It would have to go summon one hallucination, maybe wait about 3 seconds, summon another one, wait 3 seconds, summon another one. The reason why this is good is because it basically makes the Dilo have to kind of use 2 hallucination charges to get 1 guaranteed hit. The 1 guaranteed hit means that as you're running to the first hallucination, the second one has spawned, and you won't have time to get rid of it before it hits you. But it also means that the opponent is actually playing against the Dilo. You see, they're trying to get rid of the hallucinations and keep moving and doing that. Of course, the biggest issue with Dilo is, of course, the interactivity. It doesn't really feel like the devs want to go down a route where biting the dinosaur gets you back charges. Hence why I've always just kept that as what I would do if I was to design a dinosaur game. If I had an ability similar to that, that's how I would do it. I think the waiting for the charges is very, very good. I also think that if the AI or the hallucinations work the way they used to, where they would 3 call, it would mean that you as a Dilo player could actually pretend to be a hallucination. You could 3 call, wait for the person to start running towards you, but then you then start leaving that area. They're expecting to see a hallucination there, but you're not there anymore. You've dipped. And then you can actually come in and bite them, and it would make them confused. Effectively, this would mean that the Dilo would be using the hallucinations as bait for it to bite, but also using itself as bait for the hallucinations to bite. Some people have suggested the idea of the hallucinations not doing any damage. And I agree that this would be a pretty cool idea if Dilo's venom did something else. I think the best suggestion I've gotten is Meta's idea, which was that the Dilo venom makes it such that your bleed doesn't stop ticking down. It's an anticoagulant, so you can't heal the bleed. When your bleed goes down, it just keeps ticking down, ticking down, ticking down, ticking down. So even one Dilo bite, given enough time, will bleed you out. But of course, the venom only lasts for so long. So the Dilo has to bite you about every 45 seconds to a minute to reapply that venom to keep you bleeding. And eventually the bleed ticks will get so big that the Dilo just kills you. And the hallucinations would just be that, hallucinations, they won't do damage. If you don't give Dilo a secondary effect for the venom, but you take away the damage from the hallucinations, the Dilo becomes very, very weak. This is the same reason why the damage on Raptor's pounce was increased. Because the Raptor's pounce can do damage, that is a more immediate reason to buck the Raptor than just the bleed, you see. If it was just doing bleed, you could just let the Raptor pounce you for ages, and then just let it run out of stam, and then just kill it very, very quickly. Second it dismounts, you just blitz it, and then just hope your bleed just lasts fine in a 1v1 situation. Even dinosaurs like Stego used to do this way back when. You know, back when Raptor had a 7-second bucking timer, where it would just drain all of its stamina in 7 seconds. Sometimes the Stego would just leave you on for a bit, for you to drain your stamina down a decent amount, and maybe then they'll buck you, because there was no immediate threat. Having that damage made the immediate threat. Of course, I also like the fact that Raptor has had its pounce split in 2, where it has 2 different effects, the bleed or the damage. I really, really like that. I think that's very, very cool. But I wouldn't want to see a mistake made for Dilo where there's actually no threat of being envenomed by the Dilo, because people will eventually figure out a way to tell what the real Dilo is and what the hallucination is. Because the hallucinations then wouldn't have to 3-call, they'll just run at you, you see. And then when they get to you, they just do nothing, and then there you go. It could work, but I do quite like the idea of the hallucinations damaging you. The reason being is that the 1v, let's say, well, not the 1v1, when you're being attacked by Dilos, it's a very, very thematic fight. You know, it's very, very, I think the devs did a really good job having this thematic fight. The Dilo hallucinations aren't just, oh, why is it summoning hallucinations? The Dilo hallucinations are a metaphor for the venom flowing through your veins. As the venom is slowly killing you, the Dilo hallucinations are meant to be the representation. The idea of you fighting back against the hallucinations is supposed to be this metaphor for you, your body fighting back against the venom. While your dinosaur's fighting back against the venom, you as the player are fighting against the hallucinations. So maybe you could even go down this route even further. You could even make it such that if you keep dispelling hallucinations, the timer for your envenomation stage decreases. Like, let's say it decreases by 10 seconds per hallucination that you get rid of. But each hallucination that hits you increases your venom timer by 10 seconds. You see? But this would then, of course, lead to a point where you just spam 2 hallucinations, in which case your hallucination timer lasts the exact same amount. You see? Hence why you need to have the counterplay to it. But ultimately, I find that because Dilo has to hunt at nighttime, and at daytime it's very, very weak. It can be killed rather quickly by raptors during daytime. Packies can do a number on Dilos. Cerrado is almost unapproachable during daytime by Dilos, if the Cerrado knows what it's doing. Carnos as well actually have a fair matchup versus Dilo. So it's interesting like that. Tenno as well can defend itself against Dilo pretty easily. Dilo is only really a threat at nighttime. The whole thing for Dilo is the pressure of getting a kill during nighttime. You have to imagine, for example, that, if you think about the game less of like the one-on-one interaction, but instead your place on the island out of 100 players, Dilo's a very, very interesting dinosaur, because during the daytime it can't really hunt, but it has to scavenge. Meaning that if you have dinosaurs guarding bodies, which is what this current system sort of incentivizes you to do, which then causes interactions with Cerrado and just ecosystem of one dinosaur taking the food from another dinosaur and yada yada yada, then what you get is that if the Dilo can't get food during daytime, there is even more pressure for the Dilo to get food during nighttime. And if the Dilo fails to get food during the night, then there's even more pressure in the morning, like an insurmountable amount of pressure in the morning to try and get food, you see, which makes a Dilo circumstantially have situations where you just can't get food as the Dilo, you see. Furthermore, another weakness of Dilo is groups. If you have a group of 2 dinosaurs, you can actually defend yourself from about 2 Dilos, because your friend just needs to protect you. If the Dilos now switch targets onto your friend, they have to envenom them instead, which of course could be easy by certain dinosaurs. But some dinosaurs in a group of 2 can actually defend themselves versus Dilo. Carno, for example, can do it, and so can Cerrado. Sometimes even raptors can do it, but of course the issue with raptor, of course, is the fact that you have to pin the Dilo. So you can't defend against 2 Dilos, but you can defend against 1 Dilo. 2 Packies, for example, can defend against Dilo. If the one Packy gets envenomed, the other Packy just bonks the one Dilo, and the other Dilo just eventually gets bonked as the time goes on. But you limit their ability to actually reapply that venom. If you have a much larger group, and you have to remember, for quite a while in this game, we've been seeing herds of about 6 dibbles. Normally, just as the norm, just herds of 6 dibbles walking around. You'll have packs of raptors, you'll have groups of Cerrado, you'll even have whole herds of stegos. Sometimes even the stegos mix packing with the dibbles. In a group, the Dilo really, really falls off. Because a group of Dilos therefore need to target one of the dinosaurs and just hope that their hallucinations blitz it down fast enough, such that they don't need to go in again and try and re-envenom them. Because if you're protecting your group mates, you know, then they can't really re-enter or re-engage to reapply the venom timer. Meaning that then adds another thematic element to the Dilo, you know? Which is that while your friend is battling against hallucinations, you are trying to look after your friend as best as you can against something that you can't see. If we kind of, you know, to use a D&D term, metagaming, if we take out the metagaming side of the Isle, your dinosaur doesn't understand what's happening to its friend, unless they've come across Dilos before, or they've been attacked by Dilos before. Meaning that your dinosaur is just seeing your friend being hurt and taking damage from this venom, and you're doing your best to protect them. And I think that's a really, really cool dynamic for a fight. But that's about really all of my Dilo opinions, to be honest. I really am hoping that this new bug that Dilo has gets fixed. And I wouldn't mind there being a nerf to bring the hallucinations back in line with what they were before. I think it's more than enough that the hallucinations spawn in consistently. I think it's more than enough that the hallucinations now work near water. I think that's perfectly fine. Getting up to a high place still does cut the hallucinations, as I've shown, as do certain elevation changes, sometimes mess with the Dilo. But we may get fixes for those later with the Dilo pathing, or maybe even like an aerial AI, as the devs talked about the idea of there being an aquatic and a aerial hallucination that could come get you. But we'll have to see. Oh, excuse me. But then again, it could also be a thing of just, maybe they just leave Dilo like this, and they just say that, look, if you're terrified of Dilo, that you should just be more hidden during nighttime, or be in a group. So if you're by yourself and you're terrified of like a single Dilo, or even like a whole group of Dilos, which is 4, then you need to say hidden during nighttime, unless you're in a group yourself to like protect the member who gets targeted. Because we also know that the devs don't really want Dilo to properly punch up against dinosaurs, which kind of makes sense in a strange sort of way. I would have to see how Dilo does against Dibble and Stego during nighttime. I kind of feel that Dibble would kind of get chewed up through. So maybe some nerfs are in place to just keep it in line with a dinosaur that very much so just targets the smallest end of the roster. The dinosaurs going up to like 10-0 size, or maybe even if we get a dinosaur around 2 tons, around that sort of weight scale. But we'll have to see. The devs have never really said what is the size that Dilo shouldn't be punching up to. We just know that it's designed to not really punch up against like mid-tiers and all that, which I can kind of see. If you have an aloe and you go to envenom the aloe, and it might take 3-4 bites to do so, if one of the Dilos gets bitten by the aloe, or even being hit by like 1 or 2 bites, that Dilo's out of the fight. If this keeps happening, the aloe will eventually kill the Dilos, or at least limit their ability to re-engage enough that they have to back off. So there's always that. It could also be the idea of punching up with Dilo also takes into account group sizes. So a single Dilo isn't going to be punching up to an aloe, but a group of 4 Dilos might. I think that's another thing in Isle Balance that quite a lot of people misinterpret, is the idea of group sizes. It makes perfect sense if you are a 10-0, for example, and you get found by 4 Cerados, that you're probably going to lose that fight unless you try to run or make a daring escape. You see? So there's always stuff like that. I think that's really about all I properly want to say. I just kind of wanted to mess around with the video and just have a bit of fun, really. So that's about all. Have a good one. Goodbye.